What if Vivi and Momonosuke are the real ancient weapons? And what if the entire world of One Piece has misunderstood the meaning of ancient weapons for over 800 years? Most fans think they're giant machines capable of destroying islands. But what if that's wrong? What if the weapons were never objects, but living creatures connected to royal bloodlines? And once I started looking into this theory, everything began to connect. Shirahoshi, Zunesha, Vivi, even Roger and Laughtail. Because the more you analyze Oda's hints, the more it feels like the ancient weapons aren't technology at all. They're rulers of nature itself. Let's start with Poseidon, because this is where the theory truly begins. Poseidon isn't a battleship or machine. Poseidon is Shirahoshi, a living person born with the ability to command sea kings. And that detail changes everything. Because if Shirahoshi is only the controller, then the actual weapon is the sea kings themselves, massive ancient creatures capable of destroying the world. So then I started asking myself, if Poseidon rules the sea, what rules the land and sky? That's when I discovered a connection to ancient mythology involving three primordial beings: the Leviathan, ruler of the seas; the Behemoth, ruler of the land; and the Ziz, ruler of the skies. Suddenly, One Piece started making way more sense. Now think about Momonosuke. During Wano, Momonosuke did something almost identical to Shirahoshi. He commanded Zunesha, not controlled through force, not convinced through friendship, commanded. And Zunesha obeyed instantly. That's terrifying when you realize how powerful Zunesha actually is. A creature so massive it can erase entire fleets with a single attack. So what if Zunesha is actually the Behemoth, the ancient weapon of the land, and Momonosuke carries the bloodline needed to control it? That would mean the Kozuki family was never just important because of the poneglyphs. They were guardians of one of the world's true ancient weapons. But then comes Vivi, and this is where the theory becomes insane. Throughout Alabasta, Oda constantly emphasized birds, skies, and flying imagery. At first it seemed symbolic, but now it feels intentional. Because if Shirahoshi represents the sea and Momonosuke represents the land, then Vivi may represent the sky, Uranus. But what if Uranus isn't a flying machine? What if it's another ancient creature, the Ziz, a massive sky ruler from mythology? And suddenly Imu's obsession with Vivi starts making sense. Remember, Imu specifically had pictures of Vivi and Shirahoshi, two royal descendants connected to ancient bloodlines, but there was no picture of Momonosuke. Why? Because Momonosuke technically vanished from history after Toki sent him into the future. And that detail might be one of Oda's biggest hidden clues. Because if Imu is hunting bloodlines connected to the ancient weapons, then Momonosuke escaping time itself would make him invisible to the world government. But here's another huge piece of the puzzle. What if the ancient weapons aren't weapons meant to destroy the world, but balances created to protect it? Sea, land, sky. Three forces maintaining order. And maybe the Void Century began when someone tried controlling all three at once. That could explain why the world flooded, why islands are separated, why the world government fears the ancient kingdom so much. The ancient weapons may not just be tools of war. They could literally shape the planet itself. But now let's shift to Roger, because I think Roger discovered all of this on Laughtail. And there's one detail almost nobody talks about. Right before Roger reached Laughtail, we clearly see him carrying his sword, Ace. But after returning from Laughtail, the sword disappears. In every full body panel afterward, Roger no longer has it. So what happened to it? Did Oda forget? Probably not. Oda almost never forgets details involving legendary weapons. Which raises the question, did Roger intentionally leave Ace behind on Laughtail? And if he did, why? Maybe because Roger understood he wasn't the person destined to change the world. Think about Roger's final journey. He learned the true history. He found the One Piece. He discovered the meaning of the Void Century. And yet, he laughed. Not because the treasure was meaningless, but maybe because he realized he arrived too early. The world was waiting for specific people. Luffy, Shirahoshi, Vivi, Momonosuke, the inheritors of ancient wills and bloodlines. Roger may have realized he could never awaken the true power of the ancient weapons because they were tied to people who had not yet appeared. So leaving his sword behind may have been symbolic, almost like a message for the next generation. And honestly, this could explain why Luffy's journey feels so connected to these kingdoms. Fishman Island gave us Shirahoshi, Wano gave us Momonosuke, Alabasta gave us Vivi. Oda has been building this network for hundreds of chapters, not randomly, intentionally. And if all three are connected to ancient creatures ruling sea, land, and sky, then the final war may be bigger than pirates versus the government. It could become a battle over the forces that literally control the world itself, which also explains why Imu fears these bloodlines so much, because together they may hold enough power to overthrow the entire structure of the world. And maybe that's the real meaning behind the ancient weapons. Not weapons of destruction, but inheritances. Ancient powers passed through bloodlines waiting for the right era to awaken again. That's why Roger couldn't act. That's why Joy Boy failed. And that's why Luffy's era matters so much, because for the first time in 800 years, all the pieces are finally returning together. Vivi, Shirahoshi, Momonosuke, and somewhere on Laughtail, Roger may still be waiting through the sword he left behind, for the person who can finally finish the story he started.